Spook.
Yes.
Guess whose birthday it was today?
You recording?
Yeah.
Whose birthday was it, Sly?
Guess.
Stephen King.
No.
Who? The Elephants?
No.
Who? Ben King.
No.
Wank King. The actor, Wank King Phoenix.
We're not using any of this.
Should we just cut?
Yeah. Welcome to Collingwood Rant. I'm Sly.
No, I'm
Wanking. Yeah, good opening.
Alright, try it again.
No, we can't.
No, you have to.
That father has his daughter listening to these shows, and you're making these sort of innuendos. It's disgusting. It's disgraceful.
I like Wank King Phoenix.
The traditional King's birthday clash, which goes back 2 seasons.
2 seasons?
Yeah.
Oh, because the King's only been the King for just 1 day.
What a crock of shit this fucking game is.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's played in beautiful, pristine conditions. Did you notice?
Fuck, it's Melbourne turned on its waterworks.
Was it like a heritage round? It was like a 1970s mud pit out there today.
Yeah, what's up with the MCG surface? Because it really looks...
Well, I think Carlton shit themselves all over it yesterday.
Well, that could be the thing. I don't know where to start this, because all I can say is, what a shit performance, Collingwood.
So you weren't happy with it?
Fuck.
A win's a win, Sly.
I don't give a fuck. Craig McCurry said in a press conference or in one of the interviews, he says it pretty much every week anyway, we found a way to win. Yes, we did.
Are we work in progress?
I think Melbourne found a way to lose. I think today there was a little bit of, I don't want to use the word hubris, arrogance. I don't understand why they didn't choose Mason Cox, who has a really good record against Max Gawn.
Yeah, I think going in to the preview of this game last week, I thought Coxie'd be a shoo-in to come in. He does have a bit of a physical ascendancy over Gawn.
I think his size and just his unpredictability does scare Gawn. I mean, Coxie's probably the biggest ruckman in the league, and the fact that he does have that in-your-face attitude actually worries Gawn a little bit.
He said that after he addressed the Maisie thing.
Oh, yeah. Did he?
No.
Okay. So that actually surprised me.
You look surprised.
This is my surprise face. So McStay comes straight back in.
Mm-hmm.
Needed to rush him back in before the bye, get that game into him.
Yeah, I thought it was a strange one. Like, they seem to be quite keen to get him back out there. I would have thought with the bye, you've given him another 2 weeks. He could have played for Casey or against Casey last night.
2 nights ago.
Does the VFL have a bye next week? Don't they have a bye every other second weekend?
I don't fucking know.
He could have got a bit of run into his legs, but no, they were keen to get him out there. I mean, he kicked 2 goals, so I suppose it's an adequate return. Took a contested mark. I think the only one that we had for the entire.
Well, the second mark, that mark he took to kick his second as well was a great mark. I mean, it was probably the one time we kicked space and someone could run onto it.
That's the one time that we didn't bomb it into.
We still bombed it. It was just
into
like
the defender's hands.
Yeah, and then Hoskin does the sub. I thought was a little bit surprising. I thought it'd have to be
Hosking, Elliot.
Hosking. There's no G on it.
Is there?
No.
Is that the G?
Either Sullivan or Hayes, surely.
Ivor Sullivan.
Ivor Davies from Icehouse. Either Sullivan or whatever his name is. Hayes. Should have been sub, I would have thought.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Why is Hayes playing it right now?
He doesn't look ready, does he?
I think they've chosen him for his pressure. I'm sure if I looked it up, I will, while you're talking.
How many tackles do you have? Look it up while I'm talking.
I'm looking it up. Do you know I printed this? I have to print on single-sided sheets today.
Do you think Hayes was brought in for the fact he can kick 7 inches above the ground?
Those 2 kicks, though, were just jeez.
I think it was a high pressure game. I don't know whether it's the sort of game that I think it was obviously a given that he was going to probably come in.
Hayes got no tackles.
He got no tackles. Well, why the hell was he there?
I don't know.
What did he do?
Kicked the goal.
Kicked he?
Yeah.
He did too after the 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, good on him. So that's why he's selected. I don't know why you sat down on him.
I really would have thought Coxie was the right one to bring in. I thought if you're going to play a sub, it should be Sullivan or Hayes. It's just I don't know. I could be totally overrating it, but it just seemed like a little bit of, hey, how good are we? We're just winning games regardless of who we play at the moment. It's one man in, one man out. I really hate that. I mean, I understand that as a philosophy, but, if you lose, let's say, Nick Daicos and still side bottom, you're not just going to fucking bring in Lockie Sullivan and Harry Di Mattia and it's going to be the same outcome.
No, I don't know. Did we would have known the weather conditions in advance.
It's raining the whole week.
It was. I don't think we like playing in that condition. It does tend to slow our ability to run and carry.
They do have a big body midfield.
Yeah, I think maybe we undervalued Melbourne a little bit more than anything. They've beaten some iffy sides coming in. I think who was their biggest scalp, you reckon? It was Geelong, wasn't it? Brisbane? Oh, yes, they beat Brisbane. They lost it to Hawthorn, I think, but they've had a bit of a reasonable sort of run. But yeah, I don't think we valued them enough. They played well.
You go to not playing Mason Cox. Gorn was amazing, but
isn't he always usually?
Yeah, but he was
amazing at the very last minute.
Yeah. I've said this before, and I don't mean to be disrespectful. Darcy Cameron's not a great tap ruckman at the centre bounce. And they just waltzed it out time and time again. The treatment of Ed Langdon on Nick Daicos was a fucking farce.
Yeah, I've said this before. I go to the football, or go to your house to watch the football, to watch blokes of the calibre of Nick run around, not be tagged.
Well, Grant Thomas spoke out about it on Twitter or X, whatever the fuck it's called. It's ridiculous too. It's like after halftime, Nick started getting a few frees, and then the commentators are talking like, oh, there seems to have been reinterpretation, like Nick's now getting charities. He should have got about 8 or 9 free kicks in that first quarter alone.
He was being scragged left, right and centre. And that's the thing, like no one ever fucking goes to football and says, how good was the tagging on the weekend?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the tagging? Who do you think will be tagging next weekend?
I don't mind tagging though if it's like he's playing within the letter of the law. So,
but that was just pulling, grabbing.
That's holding the man, time and time again. It's holding the man, and the umpires are gutless to play it.
2 frees. I think he got out of that entire scragging session. Yeah, it's not on.
No, but that's just, and I just hate how fucking gutless umpires are. And I don't just blame the umpires for being gutless. It's AFL because they're the ones issuing directives about how things should be umpired. I mean, the 2 things they're really focused on is the insufficient intent, which is just a fucking bigger farce.
It is. It's a coin toss.
Just change it to last man touches. That's what you want it to be.
So last man gets his tucker.
Yeah, just fucking change it. If that's what you want, change it. The amount of times players are called for, like, they tap it to, or they try and tap it to themselves or whatever, and it goes out. It's like, I'm not saying against us. Like, it happened against them, and it's happened the last 2 years. And the fucking, when I'm going to finally decide 1 out of 10, that wasn't 15, play on. I mean, the 8 kicks before it were about 12. That one was 6, but I'm just going to call that one single one a fucking not 15. They're your focuses, are they, AFL? How fucking moronic are you in administering the game? It's astonishing that, like, I don't actually think it... There's that commentary that it's a hard game to umpire. I don't think it is. I think it's a hard game to umpire, so I'm not blaming the umpires. I think it's a hard game to umpire because the AFL issues such fucking ridiculous mandates in what's going to be paid and how to interpret it.
Chook Lotto.
Oh, it's insanity. I mean, I said that to you at one stage. Like I said, why'd they pay that holding ball, but they didn't pay it? Like, there's a one Perryman grabbed it, got tackled immediately, and dropped it. And, like, if I'm fine for that to be paid, but then why don't you pay the next couple?
No, and to balance it out, there's plenty that we got caught holding the ball and they were just ball ups. And you think it just doesn't... Well, it doesn't ring true across for both sides. And I think it's not just us, it's every game over the weekend. You're looking at it going, no one actually knows what holding the ball is anymore.
Well, you've had players come out and say that. In the first half, I thought we got the rub. You said we got the rub with the Grant. In the second half, they did. It was just an insane freeze. I know we got a few ticky-touch ones, like the Nick Daicos pushing the back. I mean, I've seen people complain about it. It's like, yeah, but I see that paid sometimes, and other times it's not. It's just, again, it's the...
It was paid up the other end with the Perryman push on whoever it is that missed. Yeah, there was not much in that, but, you know...
But that's the thing is, like, the inconsistency... And a lot of those ones, too, they're afraid to pay him depending on their proximity to where they are. Like, a lot of the ones in front of goal, sometimes we'll pay it, sometimes we won't, because the game might be close. But it's really poorly umpired. And again, not blaming the umpires. They have directives. I'm blaming the fucking AFL, who I've called a weak organisation for fucking 2-3 years, or even longer. It's really, really poorly administered. Anyway, first quarter, we're 2-2 apiece. I thought the umpiring was appalling. I really love when Petrarca tried to take on the tackle and was tackled to the ground, and then to try and get rid of it, he tried to throw it onto his foot, and it was intercepted. It's not a throw. Petrarca took an advantage a little bit earlier. Clearly tried to take on the advantage. Even as the umpire was blowing the whistle, he was still trying to take the advantage. He was tackled, dropped it. No, bring the kick back. Fuck! You have terrible umpiring. But it was really an arm wrestle. In the second quarter, it was a little bit like we could start getting the ascendancies, but it was interesting because I don't think we really played that well. It was another game which I think I've done the last 5-6 weeks where we're letting the opposition actually rule the stats, but we're just sort of being more efficient when it matters.
Yeah, it sort of felt like you got a playing group who's got one eye on the bye, in that we just wanted to get through this game, and we got through it with the win, which was great because it didn't look like we were there for a period in the last quarter. They looked like they had the ascendancy, but I think the bye's come at exactly right. And whether that's just a mental thing that it's coming up. It's like, how hard do you work when you got a long weekend or annual leave booked or whatever. You tend to start paring back to get ready and to go into that holiday mode. And I think there was a little bit of an element of that. I mean, they rose when they were pushed in the last for a short period, but then they sort of faltered again. It was just like, you've got the spark. The spark's there. That's gone again. And it felt like that throughout the game. It was flat.
Yeah, outside of that, getting that 20-point lead, it felt like getting that 20-point lead, we were asserting our ascendancy, but after that, it just went back to shit. Let me ask you something, and I put this to you a little while ago. Bring McStay back. Does that actually fuck up the forward dynamic, and then Elliott gets not shut out, but it just changes the synergy of how that...
No, didn't May play on Elliott the bulk of the game?
Yeah.
I mean, that just absolutely kills any chance that Elliott was going to have for any contested mark or anything like that. And I don't think he let him he didn't really break free all that often.
Well, that was the big thing. Is like, a lot of time, but we
they flooded.
Watching the game, we kept shouting, "Is like, can you stop bombing? Can you fucking actually look for a lead?"
But the problem is Melbourne just kept pushing numbers back every time that we were going into a forward entry. So you're almost forcing that contest. And I said that at halftime, surely you're going to sit there and look at the numbers and say, look, the bombing's not working. It's time to lower the eyes, boys, which is what they came out and did in the third quarter.
For a little bit.
Suddenly we looked like a bit more of an attacking, efficient side going inside 50. But then, just when push come to shove, it just went back to bombing again. And it doesn't look like... I mean, apart from the one contested mark in the forward line that Dan McStay took, Mio was practically unsighted.
Yep.
Membry,
was unsighted.
He collected possessions on the outside
Took
of 50.
on the
but,
wing,
but really, the forward line just looked off.
Why did they not play McCreary more in the middle? They did toward the end, but...
I don't know. I reckon we're a far better looking side when he is put on the ball. We had that period of 3 games where we were really not dominant, but we looked a lot stronger coming out of.
It looked a lot more unpredictable.
And when he was shifted in there today, the dynamic of the midfield changed again.
Well, it's interesting because again, I think they got a lot wrong. They should have played Cox. The way they set up seemed weird in terms of who they played as a sub. And another thing also in the first quarter, I saw Ned Long on Keziah Pickett. It's like, that's just a total mismatch.
I think everyone stood Keziah Pickett there for a while.
No, but at the start, it was Long was clearly on him. It's like, I've been an advocate of Long for 2 years, but that's not the matchup to get on Pickett, who's really quick and got burst acceleration. That's not the matchup. Now, I know the way they played the midfielders, they're all got a signed role, so maybe they just said, well, Ned, you're going to be the defensive one, so whoever comes to you, you're on. But that just seemed like a really, really weird choice.
Yeah, I wonder, did you reckon Pendlebury has say over placements out there at times? Because it did change around a fair bit. Do you reckon they're calling the shots out of the midfield, or is this directive coming from the runners to try this?
I think it's coming from the runners. I think... Because you get back to the 2020 Grand Final when Nick Daicos said to Pendles, do you want me to swap with Mitchell? And Pendles just said to him, well, you don't want to be part of it. So obviously the midfielders have some free reign there as to who's going to be in there. I mean, obviously there's going to have to be some instruction about who goes in at certain times, but just they seem like weird setups at times.
Yeah, I was wondering whether they do have that discussion about, let me try to stand him and I'll do this and let's try this, whether they're trying different things out there, and that's why you see so many rotating off different players at times.
So what I would like to see is stuff like...
10-goal win?
Yeah, I would really like to see that. But what I'd really like to see is just say, go play McCreary on Pickett or get Hill into the middle and play him on Pickett. And, both those guys have burst acceleration and they're really quick. That long matchup was just totally wrong. And that felt like a little bit of the game was just sort of everything was like a little bit out of sync. And that's why Melbourne could dominate. And Gawn was just so dominant as a ruckman.
I think the frustrating thing I commented on during the game is just how often they allow Gawn to get in the front, and that's what he likes because he'll take possession of the ball and either belt it or handball it on. And I think it was only maybe once or twice that Cameron went to tackle after he did that to try and get him to hold the ball down, and it just didn't seem to pay off. He just seemed to be forced under the ball, or forced himself under the ball rather, and he got the clearance away.
So Josh Daicos,
I think it was a brilliant game.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Except for that one slip, which is costly, but yeah, he was fantastic. Quaynor was really good. Howe was brilliant.
Oh, Howe was superb.
You think we should have played Darcy more?
He wasn't great.
Oh, he's appalling. I was making the call that we should move him to full forward, bring Hoskin Elliott on, play him on Melksham.
Because they don't really have any big tall forwards in
No.
Melbourne that were damaging. Was that who came in for him?
No, yeah.
Who's that young
Van
key
Royce?
forward, Van Rooyen, or
Yeah.
did he play?
I don't know. Hang on. I think Templeton came in.
I thought I saw he came in. Was he on the list?
I didn't keep that.
Maybe someone can put it in the comments.
No, someone else.
You know, we read the comments now.
Yeah. What were we talking about? I don't remember.
Bringing
Van Rooyen?
putting
More
up forward. Yeah.
That back six, it's weird because I think there's a lot of really good individual performances. I think Howe's been great. Moore's been up and down. There's times he's been great. I thought Frampton made some really killer mistakes today, more so with his disposal.
Do you think that's pressure in the conditions? Pressure in the conditions?
I mean, yeah, I think that contributes. I think Frampton, he plays the way when I watch him when he's got the ball in hand. He plays like Pendlebury, like I have so much time. And I don't think you have as much as you think, really.
I saw him checking the form guide at one point.
But he does. He seems really relaxed. So, I mean, and that's a good trait, but in times, as I think, sometimes they show a bit more urgency. Houston, I thought, was really, neither here nor there.
Yeah, it's funny because we talked about this after the game. You didn't like his game. I know you hate Houston. You stabbing Doles on the couch while you were watching the game. But I didn't think he was bad either. I don't think he's damaging.
I think he's bland.
Yeah, it's like a vanilla player, and I think again it's just one of those things like we went
Disney
through
movie.
with Schultz. You just expect so much more out of him, and when's he going to have that breakout moment? I don't think he was this vanilla at Port.
No.
I think we've covered this that many times now, but it's like I don't think he was terrible or anything today. But he didn't really stand out either. He just seems to be there.
Yeah. I think that sums him up pretty much. I think he just happens to be there.
What did Houston do today? Well, he turned up.
He turned up.
He was there.
But that was like a lot of the players. If I look at Melbourne side, I think there's a number of players had good games from him. And I look at us, I think Howard was really good. Josh was really good. Quaynor was really good. Pendles, I thought the first half was really good. He quieted a bit. He still did a few things in the second half. And other players popped in and out. And then you had a lot of guys like Nick. I know he's getting scragged and all that. So what's wrong with him? Is he injured? Or are they just getting inside his head because they can just do what they want to him?
I think his retaliation today really spoke volumes of frustration. I think this is now just a cheap tactic to quell him. And the problem is, I don't think there's too many of us that are going in to help him out. Ed Allen, I saw him a couple of times sort of remonstrate with Langford and stuff. Langdon, sorry. But really, I think we watched the post-match interview with Darcy Cameron, and he was asked a question there, and he said, "Yeah, we probably should have done more to help him." But I don't. Surely a player of that caliber, you don't sacrifice him for the game. He's going to do more damage for you on the. And conversely, I think like Langford. I think my stats Langdon. I read out for Langdon. Fucking hell. It was minus 4 metres gained and had 4 possessions. I think he's a much more damaging player for them.
Should be, yeah.
It was just a waste actually having him produce nothing to keep Nick to 19 touches and a goal. Yeah, well, we still won the game, so.
Yeah, I wish McRae would actually be a bit more proactive and either just say, well, you know what, Nick, don't worry, just take your man out and free it up and we'll have like a bit more space around there. Or you go run the half forward. He did that a little bit. He was sort of moving off it, but it just seems almost like, as you said, it's a sacrifice to, well, work your way through it, find your way out of it, and it's not really happening for him.
Yeah, I think the problem is if you're going to take Nick out of the game, you really want someone like Long to really step up and have a dominant performance, and he at times struggled today. I think we overall felt the absence of those two who generally
midfielders are
the driving engine. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get to some stats eventually. The midfield was really, really beaten, and I think I don't like that. I don't know whether. Look, I don't fucking know, but it seems they weren't responsive to, like, Gorn's going to kill us, and they still weren't sort of trying to rove defensively at the very least. They were still trying to rove like they were going to win tap-outs. So centre clearance is 16-7 in Melbourne's way. Stoppage clearance is 23-22. So total clearance is 39-29 in their favour. But then you look at the other stats, it's like, inside 50s, 54-45.
To who?
To their way. Kicks, we had more. Handballs, we had more. Contested possessions, they had a lot more. They had almost 30 more than us.
But we were moving the ball around sideways a fair bit because like I said, they ran back in waves essentially. Yeah. They had 3 or 4 dispersed in different sections of the ground to try and quell that entry. And I think we did a hell of a lot of chipping around to try and find a way through. Yeah.
I wish though. I thought we played a little. No, I think we played a fucking really dumb game. I thought it was really just. As we just talked about earlier, there's a lot of bombing. I thought in the first half, particularly, though, I was finessing when they were trying to move the ball around the ground. There was like millionaire handballs and let me just punch it forward. And it was like, well, someone show a little bit of poise. Until I got to about within 7 of goal, then it was just bomb. And I thought that should have been reversed. There should have been, when you're moving the ball around the ground, maybe just kick it long and try and win it. But then when you get to within 70, then show some finesse and look for, guys. I mean, May's a really, really good defender. But you'd think that you'd be saying to Jamie Elliott, all right, you're not going to beat him in the air more often than not. You need to beat him on the ground. So you just run, you lead, you just keep running. Run him around. Or fucking just run him and take him away from the... I mean, how many times did we kick the May and
pretty much all of them.
Yeah, it's like, maybe just say, like, just take him away from the contest. Remember, you're the one who goes up. McStay, you're the one that goes up. And it just didn't seem like there was any planning other than, let's just bomb it. No. And if we weren't going to mark it, which we didn't, and we weren't going to bring it to ground, which we weren't, then we weren't going to bring our crummers into it.
They had pretty sticky hands going when it was coming in too.
Yeah. They really... Look, I thought they should have won. I thought they were pretty unlucky.
I wasn't expecting to win at the start of the fourth quarter. Not at the start, but 5 minutes or so into it. They just looked dominant, and we looked like we just were tired.
Well, if you look at it, they kicked 10-11, we kicked 11-6. They had a lot more shots at goal. They've been inside 50 a lot more.
Yeah, but their disposal efficiency in front of the sticks has been appalling. I think they're 18th in the competition.
And there was a few ones. There was that one Fritsch marked right in front of the goal, about 15 minutes played on, and Quaynor came and tackled him.
Well, that saved the game.
Yeah. I mean, but
Did we talk up Quaynor?
Yeah, we did talk about him. But let me just go back. I mean, on the flip side, though, you had stuff like that. Pickett spills the ball coming out of a pack and then just sockers it off the ground and goes for a goal. So
that's when you say it's a combination of luck and skill, because they also had that one where it spilled over the top of the pack at the top of the arc, and some Melbourne guy sort of essentially got it, collapsed over on him and just dropped it onto his boot, and that cleared the pack and then went to, I think it was another one of Pickett's goals, wasn't it? It was just like amazingly lucky skill.
Yeah, I think that was Barassi, that one.
Is he still around?
Did
he rise from the grave for that moment?
Is he alive?
Was he like those, like the ghosts in the end of Lord of the Rings?
I don't know. Is he gone? I can't remember.
Is he? Yeah, no, he is.
Oh, yeah. So apologies to the...
Were you asleep that week?
Not just that week. So we're going into the break now. So we're going into Dubai.
We're going to Dubai?
Yeah. 11.
Well, the Rant. Yeah. The Rant's going to be on Dubai.
Yeah.
What are we doing there?
Yeah, sure we won't be.
We shilling for all?
11 wins, 2 losses. We're a game and a half clear of next best, which I think is Brisbane. Mm-hmm. How well are we set up for the rest of the year?
We got some...
You got some major names potentially come back?
We got some winnable games coming up as well. So I think, what are we, 11-2?
Yep.
What was that? Not tweet, message I read out that said... we need 2 wins to absolutely qualify for finals.
Well, McRae after
another
the game,
2 wins to be top 4.
McRae
and 6
said
wins.
14's their aim, so they've still got 3 more games.
So that'll give you top 4 more or less.
Yeah.
16 wins will give you a top 2 spot. Then you're looking at a run at home finals, which I think would be the ultimate wet dream for us again. It worked beautifully for us in 23.
I don't think the first one matters as much as I don't think your finish matters as much as long as you win the first one and then you get the second one and you get the week's break. So if we I don't think it will, but if we were to finish 4th and Brisbane was to finish 1st and you're playing that first week up there but you beat them, I think that totally polarises. Hey, it'd be great to have a home final because it just means you get a week break and then you get it back on your home ground afterward.
I think it helps to have.
Oh no, it definitely
certainly
would help.
helps
But
all 3. But yeah, you'd be gunning to try and make that happen. And so we come back, we play St Kilda and West Coast at Marvel Stadium. St Kilda there, it could be coming off the bye. That's probably going to be more of a challenging game than it should be. The West Coast one, we should phone home. They were fucking terrible. Did you see any of that game where they played?
I watched some. They were actually really good.
Were they?
They just kept missing. They were really. Oh, like I saw.
Were you doing LES again?
Yeah, no. I was watching the scoreboard. Like I was doing some work, but I was watching the scoreboard on the AFL website, and then I'd peek for a couple of minutes. They were dominating the game, but they just couldn't score. So
you are aware that the whole media fraternity and everyone else said it was one of the worst games they've ever seen.
No, it was a terrible game. I'm not saying it was like they were great at it, but I'm just saying like they actually dominated a lot of the gameplay. They just weren't scoring. It was a shit game. It was fucking 17 versus 18, so it's going to be a shit game. But they actually dominated. They should have won by 4 or 5 goals. That doesn't matter. We should still smash them. They're still pretty average or shit side.
So I think at the moment we'll be just ticking off the wins until we qualify as where they want to be.
Yeah, okay.
And I think we're in a good position to actually probably achieve that. What big games have we got coming up against? We play Brisbane again, don't we?
Play Carlton.
We play Hawthorn again. Carlton. Well, it's like having a bye, isn't it?
Don't say that.
I don't think even I can fuck those ones up for them.
I would hope that would beat Carlton because they've got a really tough draw the next couple of weeks where they play West Coast and North.
Oh, seriously?
Again. Well done, AFL.
No.
How's the Tasmanian push going?
Cock that up as well by the look of things.
Yeah, I'm just blaming the AFL. Fuck, you're terrible. It's
not been a good run for Dylan.
AFL's like the Nazis in Raiders of the Lost Ark. They'll get the Tasmanian ground, they'll go commemorate it, they'll open some chest and they'll release some spirits who fucking melt their faces.
And then McRae will come in to look at the tapestries.
Yeah, well, I can't remember what we're talking about. Something about Collingwood winning the flag, I think. So we're going to get Maynard back, definitely. Mm-hmm. The goalie, no one knows where he actually is at.
Do they got a GPS on him or something?
No,
they tried ringing his phone?
No, they don't.
No, we have no idea when he's coming back. Same with Schultz. He's got his 3-week hamstrings turned into a 6-month debacle.
Well, that's another one. It's just like the way it looked like it was a really minor thing.
Well, that's what he said. McRae said it's a minor. A minor strain, though, at Collingwood with a hamstring is 6 weeks. Yeah. A major strain is pretty much your career's gone.
With Mason Cox, do you think they're trying to move past him?
Well, his performances in VFL would suggest that he's not ready to go.
Did you watch the VFL game?
No, did you?
Yeah.
You're probably too busy enjoying the West Coast replay.
Yeah. Interesting game. He did some really so-so things, but he did some really good things. I mean, but that's Cox often is a mixed bag. The one thing I'd be concerned with Cox is his timing just really seems off on a lot of things.
What was he, 10 minutes late to the game?
Yeah. He kicked a beautiful one-step, 55-metre goal. But in terms of his leaps, and you saw it when he was in the AFL, he just seemed to be leaping early. I mean, he's always had a proclivity to get pushed under the ball. But in terms of the ruck contest, his timing seemed off there. I think they need Cox because I don't.
We all need Cox.
Speak for yourself. I don't think
unless you don't associate with it.
I don't think that temporary or makeshift ruck really works for him.
You mean McStay?
Yeah, I think it would work for. It works when the guy doing the makeshift rucking is actually
a makeshift ruckman.
Yeah, but he embraces it. So even like Jack Silvani, I mean, he should have had 98 frees when he was being the temporary ruck. But he'd go in, he'd wrestle, he'd do all the physical stuff. McStay doesn't actually sort of really seem to understand the ruck craft in any way. When you had Lee Brown going back 10, 15 years, he was happy to go wrestle with you. I think, when you get Cox up and about, he's a lot better temporary ruckman out. It means your forward line struggles, and it sort of means that because I don't think he gets a lot of game time compared to when you're playing like a McStay. So you sort of have to cover for him for the fact that you're not going to have him on there as much. But I think that's actually a big problem for him. I think they're really struggling to find a balance. They're really dedicated to trying to make the Membry, McStay, Myercheck thing work. And I actually don't know. And this is not to impugn McStay, but like I think in the 6-7 weeks when McStay was out, they looked a lot better forward line when they were small and mobile.
Yeah.
And you had guys like Elliott who actually can play tall and take marks, and same with Phil.
You do tend to think... Well, I mean, you've got one sample coming back, and we had a few going in, obviously, but yeah, I do agree that period would look better. But I think they'll still persist with it. That Steen was emergency. He's surely close to being picked, I would think, or given a run against West Coast, or because they're going to have to rest Cameron at some point too. You can't have him playing.
I think they're resting him this week.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's a point, isn't it? Really, I forgot about Dubai.
I think they're going to rest him the week before the finals too.
Let's just rewind that and get rid of that bit. It was a stupid thing to say. No, but I mean, like if you did have something happen to Cameron, you pretty much that's
Cox.
it. It's Cox.
Cox.
It has to be Cox. And Steen, I think's probably earned a chance to have a crack, and they might do it against one of the
but he's not going to be a 20-25 solution.
No, but I think you got to give him a go.
I actually wouldn't be opposed to like games like today. And I know they won't do it, but I wouldn't be opposed to just saying, just go more, you be the fucking part-time ruckman. I said it before, this guy would win Brownlows if he was in the ruck. You were wasting him fucking back there. I've been saying it for years. You spoke to Peter Moore once, and he said the same thing. He's saying about him playing forward.
Oh, he's definitely thought Darcy should be playing forward.
Yeah.
He said he played all his junior footy there, so I guess that's just two men's opinion, really.
Yeah, you think his dad might have a little bit more...
You think so?
Credence. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, some credence and some Fleetwood Mac.
Any final thoughts about
this? Look, I think it's good to
win.
To win, it's really about it. I wasn't expecting it, but we held on. We had the hilarity of that final kick.
What do you think about that when May went up to him?
I don't know what he said. We'll probably never know what he said, but it certainly pissed Gorn off. Like you can lip read quite clearly. He says, something about fuck off or.
I know what they said.
What did he say?
You said, "And you, sir, are you ready to receive my limp penis? How dare you!"
Well, this goes back to Cox with you, doesn't it? Yeah, so no.
And then went out for a succulent Chinese meal.
Well, there was probably some sort of inference of succulent. Yeah, so he pushed him away. Obviously, whatever it was said, whether he was trying to console him, he said, fuck that shit, or he goes, what were you thinking, you fucking goon? Which is fuck that shit works equally well in the response, but he shoved him away. He was clearly angry.
So caption this in the comments. What did May say?
What did May say?
You know what he said?
What?
He ran up to him and goes, "Somehow Palpatine has returned."
Disney.
And that still works. Fuck you. Fuck off, you dickhead.
He goes, that was good enough to be in a Disney movie.
Oh.
So it was mirth. What do you think, though, of that final play? Should have Hoskin Elliott had a shot?
Had a shot. Yeah.
So the only thing I had an issue with that, and we talked about it, the only logic I can see is with 30-odd seconds to go, he's thought it's safer just to chip the ball around, wear the clock down, rather than if I miss... They're in possession of the ball. They could perform a miracle and get up there in 20 seconds. Anything could happen in such a short time frame. I think he decided to err on the side of caution. Either that or his sleeves were too tight.
Yeah, look, I understand what the psychology of the situation is, but another way you could have killed some time by kicking a goal. You're only about 30 straight out.
Yeah, you would think you probably wouldn't have missed, but, pressure of the situation. Maybe he just didn't feel he was up to it, or that was, I don't know.
I'll go back to
did he get interviewed? Oh, surely he'll get asked the question at some point.
Why you're wearing long sleeves?
Yeah, well, because he wanted to look like Beetlejuice.
He did a couple of nice little things, but I just think it's funny the dialogue that people generate around certain situations, and like we were talking about it pre-show, where people are going, he did the right thing, he did the team thing by, passing it off. It's like, he could have done the team thing by kicking a goal, and that would have totally fucking killed the game. And that's the team thing, because you know what? There might be a situation where we're not 1 point up, where we're 1 point down, and he needs to fucking kick it. So I would rather you would have had a shot. They would have signs on the fence saying you're 1 minute left or whatever. So I would have... And go back to 2023 Grand Final too. It's like the Crisp takes that mark, deep.
Do you know, I think they actually did want him to have a shot because I saw them holding up a sign of Kennedy holding his throat.
No, but 2023, Crisp took a mark and went 10 points up at centre-half forward. And the way he was kicking, the way he was playing, I reckon he would have kicked the goal, but Pendlebury said, no, kick it sideways. And I would have rather, just attack. Because I think one thing that's frustrated both of us, at times we're like 3-4 goals up. I know that was in the situation, but instead of just saying, you know what, let's break the game open, let's just save the game. Yeah, that's getting him into trouble.
I did say, I think we're all sitting on the couch with 3 minutes to go, 2 minutes to go. You've got to keep attacking. You've got to get that goal.
Yeah.
You've got to get that little mini break and that sort of thing. But as soon as the clock ticked under a minute, you're going, okay, well, there's not much point attacking now. I think you've got to try and wear that sucker down, which is what the mindset of them probably went to.
Oh, well, that's what they're trained for.
I think Hosky just took it to the nth degree.
I do recall, going back to 2023, there was a game against St Kilda where we were at 3-4 goals up and they came back. And McRae, on one of those football shows, fuck who knows anymore which one it was, but he was just talking about, when they were reviewing it, it was like, you could have wasted a bit of time here, you could have killed a bit of time. So he was obviously looking at, this is where you could just ice the game by just wasting time, doing legitimate things. But just in a situation like that, it's not like he's 60 out and have a shot. It's like you're 30 out, straight in front. Yeah. Just line up and have a shot. He's got good skills.
Win's a win.
Melbourne,
win and ugly. There's still a time and place for it.
Great cause.
That win was as ugly as a bus full of Danners.
All that sort of segues. I was going to say, it's a great cause that they're raising money for MND.
Yep.
Well done, Neil Danaher, Melbourne Football Club. I still think you're the worst football club in the league, though. Not in terms of where you win losses. I just mean worst club, just the worst entity. You should be moved. Where could you move Melbourne to make them interesting?
Nam. Vietnam.
No, Vietnam.
Where'd you move them?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a refuse tip somewhere around, isn't there?
Phillip Island Demons.
Yeah, that'd be good. Or the Tasmanian Demons. That would have probably worked more.
Great Keppel Island Demons.
Or the Deniliquin Demons.
Where else could you move?
I think we've pushed this as far as we can go. We should move on.
Ukraine.
You got anything entertaining written down?
Comments. Tom Mitchell is absolutely in the best 23 when he was fed at Hawthorn. He was accumulating distributor. When you came to Collingwood, they gave him a specific role being an inside pack player to get the ball at Daicos, but doesn't have to compete against Long. He could go back to the roving role. He has the ability to give both Long and Daicos a break when they need it. Mitchell is a pretty finals player, a better choice than Lipinski or WHE. Could you do better than Lipinski? So that's from Robert Toohill. The TCR podcast is the best Collingwood podcast going around. Well done, guys. Well, he had a bit of credibility until the end.
Are you writing under pseudonyms again?
Yeah.
That's true.
This is not a boating accident. From David Hatley, you know this guy?
Nah. Sounds like a tosser.
Under Bear and the Penguin, understudies for Sly and Spook on the Rant. No, the Penguin's gone. Maternity, isn't it?
The Penguins are one-off. It was good to have some intelligence, though, on the show for a change.
Yeah. Ben the Parsons. Lipinski had to wait for a high ball. He had time to think of what could happen. Lipinski's out for 2 weeks. Mick should be out for at least 2 presents. Spook! 18 players have presents. Cox must play. Harry should be given the game. Thanks for your entertaining analytical wisdom. Cox has missed. He needs to play. Using key defenders relief for Ruckman is beyond stupid, which I totally agree. I would have thought they would have learnt their lesson last year by taking Frampton out of the defence and then throwing him in as a part-time Ruckman. And they really fucked up he was building some good form. And then they did it again. I thought that was really stupid.
Yeah, I think Coxie, he really is a fit-for-need player, and this was probably one of those moments that it was a need. But anyway.
But in terms of if he's not there, I would rather see him bring Charlie Dean in and say, you go fucking ruck. Rather than, take Frampton out of the fence. Because what they did last year was they took Frampton out of the fence and they brought Ting in to replace Frampton, and they played Frampton to replace Cox. It was so instead of making one replacement, you're now making 2 replacements. McRaniac, you got to be happy with winning it.
McRaniac?
Yeah.
That's a clever name.
Yep. You got to be happy with winning a danger game by over 50 points.
I'm happy about winning a danger game by 1 point.
Given the 9-day break before the King's birthday game, Vendaby will have played 1 game in 21 days by the time we take on the Saints. I don't think we'll need to be resting anyone. So you obviously knew you were going to make that stupid comment about Cameron.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That was a good observation. But none of it has performed that calculation.
Suede Boy 69, just testing out your theory that you might actually read the comment section. So here's the comment. Love the rank, guys. TCR making Collingwood great again.
When was that written? I didn't read that one.
And that's, Swade Boys, 69.
Wasn't he in that Scottish film? With Sick Boy and Renton? What was it? You know the one. It's anyway.
Ashen Prism, an 8 out of 10 show this time. I like the cracks to Ralphie. We haven't said anything about John Ralph.
The Hanging Judge.
Yeah, and Disney Star Wars, totally justified, but Sly didn't say Pendlebury. And Spook, spilling beer loses a point as well. Yeah, that's a good point.
Oh, you should have read the attaching comments. That was all sorted out between him and me. He knows the truth. He knows that my tracksuit pants reeked of your beer.
Mark Kira, I don't know if I pronounced that right. Apologies if I haven't. What's with the Zack Snyder slander? Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman are peak cinema.
No, they're fucking not.
Why did you say that name? Mark, they rebooted the whole franchise because of how bad it is.
Superman snapping someone's neck to learn killing is bad.
And
Zack Snyder.
And then he kills someone in the next movie.
He saved us, though.
Oh, yeah.
After 99% of Metropolis was laid waste.
You know what I love?
How many countless millions died? But he saved us.
But I love that because they put that one character in there to say that, so the audience got, oh, hang on, he did something here. He did some good. Because otherwise the audience would have just been sitting there stupefied going, holy fuck, what have you done?
We can do a whole rant on this.
We should.
What's next? Is that it? Are we finishing on a high?
I think it's Justice League. Jack Tubb, 65. Great show again, as per usual, but marks off for questioning the files' courage. No player out there lacks courage, and Pat is no exception. I don't think we're questioning his courage. I think we're just sort of saying to be called brave for standing there. No, but to be called brave for standing there for a bar. I mean, that's just part of the game. Cox has to play Monday. Well, he didn't, but then get him out of the side, and McStay can pinch hit after the bye. Cox can come in to give Cannon a rest a month before the finals. The goalie, the missing piece that will scare the bejesus out of opposition sides if he returns to form and fitness. You know who I think will scare the bejesus out of sides and cause fucking uncalled havoc?
Who?
Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce this. I don't know if it's Agia Aponi or Aggie Raponi, 7162.
Well, they know who they are.
You guys are harsh on Lipinski. He plays his role every week. Can you guys do just as good as or better than Lipinski? No. So STFU.
I'll let you know we had a really rough pillow fight at my house last night, and I took a hit like Lipinski. So if you want to get out of here, you talk to me.
Oh, look, apologies if I mispronounced your name, Aggie Raponi, but can you host this show better than I? No, so shut the fuck up. Okay?
That's harsh. We love the comments.
Have you thought about
He's entitled to his opinion.
Have you thought about my mother when you're making those comments?
These people are entitled to be wrong.
Do you think you can do this better than me? Shut the fuck up. No. Okay?
Shutting up, sir.
Thank you, Sophie Powers. Yeah, that's it for the comments.
Is it?
Yes.
I enjoyed those.
Yes.
Can we have more next week so we can do this as we could do a commentary on the bye.
We could do comments on comments. So, going into the bye this week...
I think we'll win.
Yeah, we should win, you think. What do you think rest of the year? You looking happy?
At the moment, we're sitting pretty. But
would you have taken this?
We made a similar comment going in.
Last year.
Last year, we were top 4, looking pretty going the bye, and then we fell off a fucking precipice.
They
Fell
were
off a
missing.
Cliff. Cliff would have been easier to say than precipice.
They were missing a lot of the side.
Were they?
Yeah.
Because they went somewhere else. Maybe they went to Goey.
I think they were in Metropolis.
Were they?
Yeah.
Getting saved by a falling building.
What sort of going forward? So
who's injured at the moment? So there's the Goey. That's the major one.
And Mitchell.
Mitchell's working his way back to you, babe.
And Maynard,
but he'll be ready for post the bye.
Yeah, Maynard should be back.
The list is looking pretty healthy.
I fucking stand now. Thank you. Why did you say that name? Yeah. So
all we need now is Zack Snyder's coaching.
Do you think that starting 18, or that 23? Do you think that is what should be the formula carrying us forward, or do you think...
I think there's some massaging to be done. I think.
All right, so let me ask you a massaging question. Is Frampton, does he belong in that back six?
Oh, fucking oath.
Because you're going to get Maynard back, so... Does he belong long term in that back six? I mean, I think he does. I've said it for 2 years.
Definitely. Yeah.
He plays that guerrilla role, so Moore can play the counter attacker.
He's the last line of defence in some respects.
Is the forward line of McStay, Membry, and Mychek?
It's potentially where you might find it ends up being top heavy.
And how do you fix that? So Schultz has to come back, another injury. So Schultz, Maynard, the goey, and Mitchell, he's playing, but he's come back from injury.
It's probably going to be a case of, out of those three talls, it's probably the last one in, it's the first one to go. So to be probably Membry be the sacrificial lamb, wouldn't you think? This is not to say, though, that we don't have another injury to one of them. So it's better to have them all fit and have it be a selection issue than have one go out through something happening.
Yeah, it's interesting one. I would like to think they're still experimenting with what the best makeup of this side is.
They're a work in progress.
No, they always have been.
We're not the finished product, you know.
The thing I really want to see is...
A flag?
Yeah, I want to see that. I want to actually see... So here's the other thing with Cox, is I think when he's in the ruck, he actually will win taps. And I don't think Cameron does that enough. And you go back, I think it was a couple of weeks ago against North, where they said Cherry was like number one for taps to advantage, and Cameron was down like 12. But Cameron was number one for like...
Ran the ground, yeah.
So I don't know if you sort of look at something like you get Cox the ruck, the centre bounces, and then he falls back, and Cameron does the around the ground stuff.
Oh, but you look at Cameron's, his contested marking down back today was superb.
The second half was brilliant.
He's so reliable. Yeah, he'll spill the odd one, but 9 times out of 10
he's got really sticky hands. He grabs and he holds it. I mean, Cox does the double grabs too often. And Cox is like over, he's on the off. When he has those off days, he just starts dropping everything. But I think that's actually a concern in the middle, because I don't think he's Cameron's great around the ground, as you said, but as a tap ruckman, so the stats show he's not really great at that. Now, you have to change the makeup of the midfield to make up for it.
Do you know what it fixes?
You have to change up.
The transporter incident.
Yeah.
You can merge the two together.
That would work for John Ralph. Could merge him into something credible.
He likes merging.
Yeah, but that's one thing I think they need to look at. The midfield is still a work in progress. I think the one thing that's actually probably, it's been good and bad. The good thing is Pendles and Sidebottom had really good years. But the bad thing is they don't quite know what the next iteration of that's going to look other than
unfortunately,
Long coming up.
Their good performances is stemming that change. I mean, it's a great problem to have, but eventually at some point there has to be a tipping into the future.
One thing I should have mentioned earlier, one thing I really would have liked to see more of is Allen actually in the middle, rather than playing on wings and flanks and coming into it later.
I hope being subbed off today doesn't herald going back to the VFL. I think, certainly Hayes, I don't think... Look, he's had his taste, he's not ready. Sullivan just...
Sullivan's
he's the weak link at the moment, he's just not doing enough.
No offence to Lockie Sullivan.
I think Allen's got more upside than Sullivan, so play Allen.
Yeah, no offence to Sullivan, but Sullivan is
He's a trier.
No, but I was just going to say, he's the guy they bring in as just a replacement, so he can drop you a week later.
Specialist.
Yeah. And you're right, Allen is the future. It'd be good to see him get more inside time. Di Matteo, I'd like to see him probably try him at some time. He looks a little bit scrappy with his disposal, though, which is, the one really good thing you've seen in recent weeks is sometimes with Pendles and Sidebottom, when they move the ball out, their delivery forward is sublime. Lipinski's another one we forgot to mention in terms of injuries.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, we've got a lot of injuries.
He'll take a hit to his courage.
But anything else? Any final thoughts?
No, just great to win ugly, as I said, and just keep that winning feeling going. I'm quite enjoying it.
Yeah, so 11 to go into a bye. I don't know, we're not coming back next week, are we?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
Not after this cough.
Yeah, so give us 2. No one near it.
I got 2.
Yeah.
Like a ninja.
One for next week. Well, that was terrible.
Oh, one for next week. Is that what it is? You didn't fill me in, that was the thing.
Subscribe.
Can I have mine back?
Use the force.
No.
I gave you one before and you just threw it over your shoulder and walked off.
You gave me one before.
Yeah.
Work with that one, Turds.
Someone said we should have a Turds take.
A Turds take?
Yeah.
Like, what does that involve?
I I don't know.
Will we take him somewhere?
Crossing to him for his insight.
Oh, let's cross to him now. He's on the... Oh, we've lost the satellite.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Toots. Subscribe, like, share, read comments, or leave comments. Don't read... Oh, you can read comments, but also leave some comments.
And make sure you tune into Turtles Take, the new show on air next weekend.
Yep.
Get on it, Turds.
We'll be back in the fortnight. Oh, it just dropped.
We'll be back in the future where most of us will be living our lives.
Yep.
In the future.
You stupid people. That's a movie reference. I'm not calling you stupid.
Yeah, for a change.
Later.
Bye. All right, start the show.